Big tech is going with its suppression of conservatives on their platforms like we've never seen quite before. Facebook has announced that it will remove all content that mentions the phrase, "stop the steal." Not allowed to say it anymore. I don't even know if you're allowed to make fun of it. You can't say it. In a statement posted on the company's official blog, Facebook management wrote, quote, "We're taking additional steps and using the same teams and technologies we used during the general election to stop misinformation and content that could further incite violence during these next few weeks. We're now removing content containing the phrase 'stop the steal' under our coordinating harm policy from Facebook and Instagram." Wow. Meanwhile, the embattled Parler app is fighting against tech giants Apple, Amazon, and Google since they've colluded over the weekend to deplatform the fledgling social network. Parler is asking a federal court for injunctive relief against Amazon after the company kicked it from their servers. In a lawsuit filed in federal court in Seattle, attorneys for Parler claim, quote, "Amazon's decision to terminate effectively Parler's account is apparently motivated by political animus." Yeah, no surprise. It's also apparently designed to reduce competition in the microblogging services market to the benefit of Twitter. Doing so is the equivalent of pulling the plug on a hospital patient on life support. It will kill Parler's business at the very time it is set to skyrocket. Friends, we are in for quite a fight here. But I want to remind everybody of something right now. What we've seen is more overt political discrimination from these companies than ever before. They're telling us now, if you say things we don't like about Joe Biden's election, if you say things that we decide could theoretically lead to violence, not calling for violence itself, but is in some way associated with what others have done in terms of political violence, we will shut you down, we will take you off, we will make sure that your business fails and you will not have a voice. But this began, if you recall, much earlier even than what we saw with this election. Going into 2020, we thought that we were going to be facing a very different year, and then the COVID-19 pandemic hit. There were a lot of experts who came forward with things that we now recognize as clearly wrong. Dr. Fauci saying the public shouldn't wear masks in public. The public shouldn't wear masks. This was back in March of 2020, and that might make people feel better, but there wouldn't be anything really to it in terms of saving lives. Now, if you even point to that, you're somehow a conspiracy theorist, just to say, well, that was what was told then. But what you saw were the social media companies taking a position that there were only certain allowable comments and commentary allowed with lockdowns, with mask wearing, with a whole range and series of issues relating to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we saw what their intent was. And keep in mind that the expert consensus, which is the only thing they can rely on to make these kinds of determinations for fact-checking, the expert consensus wasn't enough to prevent the closure of schools in places like New York City, for which the evidence now unequivocally shows there should never have been closures. But sure enough, if you took the wrong position, you could be deplatformed. You could actually be told that you would lose your access. That was on COVID. And then we saw the suppression of the entirely accurate news reporting from the New York Post that Hunter Biden was involved in some shady dealings that did not reflect well on the Biden family's penchant for making money using foreign connections and selling access to Joe Biden. So the censorship has been rolling on for some time. The effort to suppress opinions that the left does not like has been going on for quite some time. What does this mean now? Now, I understand there are a lot of people that are thinking it will stop. This must stop after Joe Biden becomes the president, right? Then things will calm down. There'll be a cooling off. It's just right now it's so tense, and it is, by the way. And what happened at the Capitol was horrible, and political violence is disgraceful. But we're being led to believe that what's going on right now is likely to, if not stop, at least be on the decline with the censorship from these social media companies. Do you really believe that? Do you think that these tech companies are going to, after wielding all this power openly, when they have an administration coming in that is as cozy as can be with the big tech companies and that shares their political beliefs, You think that all of a sudden they're going to give all this power back? They're going to allow people to speak freely on their platforms? No, this is being used right now in a similar way to 15 days to slow the spread. It seems like it's at its most reasonable point. Right now, things are hot, things are tense. Bad stuff has happened in D.C., no question about it. They just say they want to stop an incitement to violence. And then after Joe Biden takes the presidency, we're at least led to believe that you'll be able to share ideas freely over the internet again. I don't think you will. I think this is the beginning of an entirely new authoritarian regime for policing speech. I think that you're going to see a union, an alliance of big tech and big government through the Democrat Party that is seeking to dominate and deplatform and destroy based upon political preference. And so unless we do everything we can right now to raise up whatever voices we have and say, this is bad for America, it is un-American to prevent your political opponents and critics from being able to share their ideas in the contemporary public square, which is the internet. Unless we can start to get more momentum behind that idea, this is likely only to get worse. 15 days to slow the spread. Seemed reasonable at the time. They made powerful arguments for it. And now we're at almost, a year of continuous lockdowns and suppression. And do you think that that same logic may apply here to speech policing? Oh, it's just to make sure we get rid of violent content and possible insurrection language before the Joe Biden inauguration, for which there's a lot of security and a lot of concern, understandably. Well, do you really believe that once Biden becomes the president, all of a sudden conservatives are going to be given the ability to speak freely about not only the election, but lockdowns and COVID and vaccinations? You see that Los Angeles public schools are looking to make children, who are at almost no risk from the disease, by the way, take the vaccine as a condition of going back. Are we going to be able to have that debate? Are we going to be able to say, hold on a second, why should kids who clear this virus very quickly and rarely, if ever, are major nodes of transmission, why should they be forced to get this? I don't know if you'll be able to say that on Twitter or Facebook, and I would have thought you could say it on Parler, but they're trying to destroy it. This is what we are up against right now, my friends. We need to understand this goes to some of the most precious freedoms in our society. And the fight is on to preserve them for all of us. This isn't actually a partisan issue. This is an American issue. Hey, Team Buck, just want to say thanks so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more great content from The First, please click that subscribe button.